So found out the ultimate theme park hack where they have at Busch Gardens and SeaWorld properties an all you can dine deal for $50 where for the entire day, every 90 minutes, you can go to participating restaurant and you can get an entree, a side, and a drink all for that $50, which at theme park prices is crazy. But what my wife and I realized is that the employees aren't like checking who you're sharing that food with. And so we fed the whole family on this deal because like one of them was like, here's brisket and bread and fries and beans. And that's just the entree. And so then we got like a cheesecake and a drink. And you're like, okay, that's meal one. And then tacos and beans and rice was the entree. And we got another cheesecake because they had a lot of cheesecake at Busch Gardens with different flavors. But yeah, $50
Yeah.
fed the whole family because my wife and I would just split a normal size entree. The kids would pick at it for what they wanted. Then 90 minutes later, they could have something different. Yay.
There you go. Is the participating restaurants, are those like the theme park normal stuff, or there were like actual restaurants? Like,
No, it's just part of like certain restaurants have it, certain that are like snack bar type of places
got
don't
it.
do it. I think it's usually the places, but like one of them was Chick-fil-A. They had the worst deal though. It was just a chicken sandwich and an ice cream cone.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is
Welcome
when I
back.
book.
Sorry, I was trying to hit the buzzer beater.
This is when yeah, this is when I butcher the song "One Shining Moment" by rewriting it right now. This is one shining moment as we enter March Dadness. March Dadness. Yeah. All right, everybody. So welcome to this semi-bonus episode of Working on the
If
Dad
you're still
pod.
here, thanks
If
for
you're still
staying with us
here.
this long. We got through
As
that
you note,
together.
yeah, as you notice from our outfits, this is a double recording. When you're listening to this, I am going to be on the road with my two daughters for my first ever solo dad road trip. I am taking the girls to see my grandmother, who is 94 years old. The girls are off of school because it is Easter weekend and my wife has to work. So I have this opportunity where I can take them to see my grandmother. And even though I am dreading the 4-hour drive each way alone, I know it's the right thing to do. Expectations are extremely low. So the chances of exceeding them might be high. I will tell you all about it next week. Should I return?
Would you say there's high upset potential here?
There is high upset potential. And what
Are
a
we doing
wonderful
this
seg.
episode a week early or 2 weeks early?
Well, I guess so. It's possible. Anyway, the day we are recording this, not the day you are listening to this, is the opening day of the men's March Madness tournament. Tomorrow opens the women's March Madness tournament. But because we are dads and we make dad jokes, welcome to March Dadness. What we're going to be talking about today, Alex and I chose 3 stories each in which we thought it would go one way, but it would go an entire other way. In the terms of the basketball tournament, that is what we call an upset, when the lower seeded outcome beats the higher seeded outcome. And in this scenario, we are just going to be sharing these stories. Like I said, I'm now on a loop. So Alex, cut me off, please.
No, if you guys want a simple explanation, Ethan came up with the episode title March Dadness and then had to figure out a concept that would sort of work but wouldn't just be talking about sports for the entire time. So yeah,
There you
we're going
go.
to share some stories where basically we thought it was going to go one way and then due to unforeseen factors, it exceeded our
One another.
expectations positively or negatively. So really, we're going to do about a half hour of story time.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first. It was my idea. Like Alex said, I had the pun and I just needed an idea to make it work. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the March Madness tournament, it's a field of 64 teams, each four brackets seeded 1 to 16. Uh, the ones are the best, the 16s are the worst. That's really all you need to know. So, in my first story of March Dadness, I have a typical 12-5 upset. The 12-5 upset in sports are the most common up in the March Madness tournament are extremely common. There's at least one 12-5 upset every year, meaning the number 12 seeded team beats the number 5 seeded team. So it is an expected upset. And I should have expected what happened here. So last week, on Wednesday, my daughter told me, Daddy, tomorrow for dinner, I want bone chicken, which means she wanted wings. So the next day, I thawed like 25 wings. I took out a bag of French fries from the supermarket. I make this delicious dry rub to cook them all nice and crispy. And then I put out a variety of sauces so that everybody in the family could have whatever they want. My daughter ate one wing and she said, I wanted a snack. I want a snack. And I said, You are 4 years old. You requested this dinner. Please have 4 wings and then you can have a snack. After 2 wings, and all the effort I put into it, my daughter said, I am ready for a snack. I said, That was 2, not 4. Her response was, If you're not going to be nice to me, I'm not going to love you. And in what should have been a anticipated 12-5 upset, the 5 being she loves the wings and I'm the best dad ever, to the results we got. The 12 took the 5
So
and
Val was a father.
and the Wings did not advance to the round of 32.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I was just planning to tell a story without all the basketball analogies. So this one is more like a 6 over an 11
Okay.
kind of game, just because my story really revolves around the time my daughter was about 6 weeks old to about 11 weeks old.
Nice.
We, my wife and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I wasn't
No,
prepared
that
for
was
that.
good. That was good. Well
Um,
ripped. Well ripped.
Yeah, so I think my wife and I had these ideas, and maybe this happens to a lot of young parents where you have these ideas of grandeur of like a kid's not going to change my lifestyle. Like we're going to have the kid sort of fit into our lifestyle. And I don't think my wife and I were like delusional that like, oh, we'd still be like going out having drinks on a Friday night at 10:30, 11, staying up to all hours watching Netflix because we could just sleep in, like going to casual brunches, but just like we're still going to be able to do what we need to do. And right around the time our daughter was born, a lot of our good friends had already decided to get married. It was very rude of them, but we had 3 weddings from the time my daughter was 3 weeks old to I guess about 2 months. Um, and we were just like, you know what? We don't really even know this kid yet. She's not born yet when we're RSVPing to these events, but like she'll be able to hang. She'll be
Mm.
able to hang. It'll be fine. And so the first wedding was in Miami when my daughter was 3 weeks old. It was at the Fountain Blue. And if anybody knows anything about the Fountain Blue, like they have a pretty substantial nightclub in Club Live, or at least it used to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of the loop. I'm definitely out of the loop there. But we were at this wedding and it was just super loud. And we got sat with our college friends near the speakers so we could hear the music. And so we're about this close to a speaker with a 3 week old, and she's got, the earmuffs on and all this stuff. And it was my wife's friend more than my friend. And so basically, I grabbed as much food as I could very quickly as soon as it was served. And then my daughter and I went back up to the hotel room to spend the rest of the night. A few weeks later, we had gotten the bright idea that one of our good friends, you and I, was getting married in New York City. Daughter was 6 weeks old. We're like, it'll be fine. We'll just leave her with grandma. Grandma was game and it was fine. And let's just say by the end of it, my wife got back at the airport. The airport like cell phone waiting lot at West Palm Beach is literally like a Wawa gas station parking lot. And so we drove over there so that my wife could like sit in the back seat with our daughter, and like she just sat there sobbing for about 20 minutes. Just emotions pouring over her, the fact that she had left her precious baby. And I got to tell you, I enjoyed seeing you. I enjoyed watching our friend get married, but managing her stress and her emotions was like chaotic. And then the last one was a trip up to Tampa around Christmas time. Tampa's about 3.5 hours from us. And so last time I was in Tampa before this past week, but so I remembered this story as I was driving through and seeing these familiar buildings because we're like, oh, it's about 3.5 hours. She'll probably nap for most of that. She probably napped for less time that we're going to record this episode. And at the time, we now have a RAV4 that my wife drives. I drive a Honda Fit. That was the only car that we had that we could carry the child in at the time, because my car at the time was an F-150 with no back seat whatsoever. And so I was in the Honda Fit as my wife's driving through Central Florida for about an hour and a half in about this position, holding a pacifier in our daughter's mouth, because it was the only thing that would keep her from absolutely screaming at us until we got there. And the best part is not, oh, we didn't just like have a hotel room in the hotel block. We got an Airbnb with all of my wife's childless college friends, and they all signed on to it. And for some reason, when we were making these plans several months beforehand, aka before our daughter was born, we're like, that will be fine. We'll have a 2-month-old just in the house with other people. Like, we were meeting some of like one or two of them had significant others that we were meeting for like the first time. And it's just like, it left an impression. She did pretty good, honestly, but I'm like, I could tell by like day 2, we were there for like 3 days, that like it was like by like day 2, I could tell that like these people were like, I really wish I had not signed up to stay in the house with the baby. So yeah, 3 weddings, 3 fails on some regard. I don't know exactly what I would change, except maybe getting a hotel room and like telling past friends like, hey guys, you don't want to do this. Trust me.
Right.
Nobody wants this.
Yeah. Yeah, that we've done similar things with, like, although our daughter was almost 2 in a wedding Airbnb, and it wasn't that she was like crying the whole time. It was just that she was like waking up early and definitely woke up the whole house, because she'd be like, I want to go into this person's room, and we'd have to be like, no, no. So yeah, I feel that. And I loved I do remember that wedding, that first one. It was great seeing you too. And I do, um, I've only met one couple that has managed to like make their kid adapt to their lifestyle. It just seems really hard, but I've seen it.
I think
I've at
it's a
least
mix.
like it happen. So
Yeah. I think it's a mix of, you have to want that as much as
mhm,
you want anything. Like, you have to be actively working towards it.
yeah,
You have to set things
yeah,
up. And I think outside of your control, it has to be the right kid. Like, I
yeah,
think in a different universe, if my son was born first, I think he has the personality where I could have pulled like great sleeper, quiet kid, very observant, all that kind of
mhm,
stuff, especially as a baby before he turned 2.
yeah,
But I think he may have fit that bill. If just things had been reversed and he was the one that was born first. Um,
mhm,
so I think that that's such a huge factor of like, what kind of kid is this going to be? Like, from a personality perspective, you can't make any determinations on that. And so I think some people, you know, born on second base with that and think they hit a double
mhm,
kind of thing.
right, right. So I'll go with my second story. So this one is your typical 8-9 matchup. Your 8-9 matchup in the tournament is usually the most even the even matchup in every
You
field
can tell
because
because the 8 and the 9, they're next to each other.
they're next to each other. So
Yes.
one team is slightly better than the other, but the game could go either way. So my 8-9 matchup is actually still in the hospital when my first daughter was born. I was about 3 days in to being a father. I had gotten my swaddle down. I had gotten diapers to stay on. I am pretty much feeling like I've got this. Like I've been remembering to wipe down so that the poop doesn't, or the colostrum at the time. Uh, if you're not yet a dad or have never changed a diaper, look it up. Um, but the colostrum was going down, not into the vagina. And because I have
You're talking
daughters.
about meconium. Colostrum's like
Yes,
the
yeah,
pre-breast
you're
milk
right.
stuff. I'm
You're
like,
right. I'm
that's not
sorry.
the
Yeah,
right word.
no, it's
Merconium.
meconium. You're correct. Yes. I've been listening to a lot of pod
Nerds.
nerds. Anyway, meconium's gross, but it's there.
It's
You'll find
tar.
out.
It's tar.
It's yeah, it's tar. So about 3 days into fatherhood, I was feeling pretty good. I had gotten things down. She has a massive meconium explosion, and I am trying to change this diaper. My wife is still not really able to stand up yet on the post belly birth like recovery.
Yeah.
So I've been doing all the diaper changes, and I accidentally get some merconium uh into the vagina, and I like immediately call the nurse freaking out, and I was like, I messed up, like this girl got a UTI, what do I do, how do I get this out? And the nurse comes in, looks at me, takes the wipe, wraps it around her finger, goes like this, and voila, clean vagina. And I felt a little embarrassed, but um realizing that in the moment I thought I was an 8 seed and was truly a 9. And I really just gave it my all and thought I could pull it out in the end, but ultimately just I did not have the composure to pull out the upset there. And yeah, I was beaten by just experience on the diaper front. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've got one where I didn't end up losing, right? And it sort of ties back into our last story where when my daughter was about 10, 11 months old, we had some friends getting married out in Napa Valley. And for those that may not remember, we live in Florida, so it is across the country. Um, and we really wanted to go. It was a close friend of my wife and I, and we thought it would be really fun. And so what we did is we pitched a trip to wine country to both of our moms, right? We're like, let's bring reinforcements, but
Sure.
let's go for a longer period of time and actually like do some wine country, some San Francisco stuff, like do some sightseeing and make it like a worthwhile family trip and not just like oh, we're just here for the wedding and the weekend and can you babysit and then fly right back across the country. And so we did all that and we were fully prepared. Like we we had like a whole carry-on just dedicated to like things to entertain our daughter on the flight because based on our previous experiences, we didn't do a whole lot of long travel with her after like the Tampa trip. We had done one flight up to Cape Cod, but this was a whole different beast. We were flying direct from Fort Lauderdale to San Francisco. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, just long haul flight. And so we're like, we need like basically a whole carry-on for toys and like, here's what we're going to do for this and here's what we're going to do for this and here's we're going to have some drops for her ears in case she can't relieve the pressure and that's what's making her upset. And we're going to have, snacks because she was eating like a monster never eaten before in her life at that 10-month age. It's like, I know how to eat and I'm so good at this and let me show you just how good I am. She did nothing but sleep and breastfeed. from the time we got in the seat to the time we got out of the seat at the
Mm.
end of the flight. Like, she cried, and that was when the one time my wife got up to use the bathroom and, like, decided to leave her with me, and that's all she did. And so, obviously that only lasts as long as I think my daughter stopped breastfeeding, 3 or 4 months after that. So it
Mhm.
only that option of just having that, like, go-to pacifier only really works when, they're at a very certain age. But, yeah, it's been, and I will say by the same accord, we had a lot of contingency plans and things we wanted to do regarding my son for this trip to Tampa, like our last one. And we got pleasantly surprised this week because we were like, okay, we need a lot of toys for him. We need a lot of things. Daughter's taken care of. She's got the tablet. She's going to be zoned out, not paying attention. We think he'll nap for some of it, but we need to be prepared. Dude napped for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He cried for 0. He just happily sat there for the better part of 3.5 hours, not sleeping and not complaining about it.
That's pretty nice.
He
Hope my
did
kids.
he did then, like, pass out and get really cranky at, like,
Mm,
4:30 in the
sure.
afternoon after we arrived, but,
Sure. All right. Well, yeah, the first time we flew with both kids was DC to Los Angeles for Thanksgiving. My current 18-month-old was a 3-month-old. And other than when we took her out um, of the carrier, where she basically like just stayed on my wife the whole flight, like slept, hung out, nursed. Other than like when we took her out so I could change her diaper in the lavatory, that was a pretty solid flight. So the goal was to keep her like in like trapped on my wife. So obviously in your story's case, like that was not the goal, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, for my final story, we have got a classic 215 matchup because, like Alex's,
I
she was
forgot a
either
basketball
6 or
analogy.
yeah, either 6 or 11 weeks. This is my first story. One of the first things that happened in the first 2 months of my time with 2 kids. So the story is my current 18-month-old was born on the last day of August in 2022. Um, in the beginning of October, my now 4-year-old's daughter, my now 4-year-old daughter, her class, when she was almost 3, uh, pink eye went around the class, and my daughter got pink eye. So that meant keeping our almost 3-year-old away from her 1-month-old baby sister for at least a week while she was on drops, because that is what the pediatrician said. And it was a lot of hard-nosed smothering defense. I'm talking Tony Bennett, Virginia defense, where you're not going for anything fun. You are just trying to keep the baby away from the toddler. You want no points in the paint. You are just boxing out every chance you get. And that is what I was doing until I got pink eye because I spent so much time uh, keeping the pink eyed kid away from the non pink eyed kid. And because this was early October, it meant that I had pink eye on my birthday. So I had to cancel my birthday party because I just played defense too well in saving the little one. So that is
Yeah,
my story. Yeah, a
that's
real
that's quite
215.
quite an upset.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So for me, you know, I think this is more of like a 14-3 matchup.
Okay.
Um, an upset that maybe you could see coming a little bit, if you're tuned in or you know what you're looking for.
Like in
But
Oakland over Kentucky.
yes, I picked Kentucky in my bracket and my only bracket pool, which is the one I'm in with Ethan. Um, it's not looking good, folks. But yeah. Anyway, this one is more of an upset that you could see coming, but it's still a pretty big underdog. Usually Vegas is not going to have this team favored under pretty much any circumstance. But with my daughter, she was a rough, and she's still kind of a rough kid. She loves jumping on her grandmothers, like to hug them and like putting all her weight, like lifting her feet off. So all her weight. And I'm like, these are these women are not built for this. Like, you're getting big, right? And this manifested when she was little in like, we have a cat and we had a cat before she was born. And she would our cat is the sweetest cat. She never bites or scratches anyone. She always loves being pet. She's so friendly. And that meant that my daughter could successfully, without repercussion, use this cat as a tackling dummy.
Mm.
So what happened is she started spending a lot of time at my mother-in-law's house during COVID lockdown because my mother-in-law was like, I'm not going anywhere. You guys got to work. Send her to me 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, right? And so what they did to pass some of the time is they would pop out some lawn chairs and wave and talk at a distance to the people walking their dogs. And like if they
Mm.
had like retractable leashes, they might let the dogs like out on the lead a little bit so that my daughter could like pet them if, it was a dog that she was familiar with or something like that. I'm like, that led to us getting a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were looking for dogs, like we have a dog now, we got a dog then, and we were looking for dogs that would be good with children and cats. And the dog that we landed on is a German Shepherd St. Bernard mix who weighs just over 90 pounds. And I took one look at that dog and I go, she's not going to be able to tackle him. And so I was very worried when my son came along that she was going to just be too rough with him, right? Not knowing and not obviously not knowing, the new kid, what he's going to be like. And he was about 2 months old and he was starting to like interact with her a little bit and like sort of recognize her presence and not just be like a bump on a log kind of baby, just sitting there, doing a little more like reaching out. And she starts to do something and I start to say her name and she's like being a little rough with him and I'm like watching it because it's like not yet dangerous, but it's like I want to see if she'll moderate herself before I'm just like jumping in and dictating how she has to do every interaction kind of thing. And right when I'm about to do it, little man just grabs her hair, which she has never let anyone cut in her life, and it goes down to like below her waist. And just like grabs it and yanks. And she is in tears because he's got that like baby death lock on it and not letting it go. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
having to pry his fingers off. And I swear that became a core memory for him because to this day, if she is being rough with him and he's losing the fight, grabs it and holds on to it for dear life until she is in tears. And I just, I break it up. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I still break it up, but I'm also like loving her getting the feedback of something that
Mm-hmm.
is not like he's not ripping her hair out or anything like that, but like getting the feedback of like fool around and find out, as I like to tell her.
Mm.
Um, you know, yeah. So yeah, definitely an upset there for my guy.
There you go. Well, I hope you had fun with this, Alex, because I definitely did enjoy our March Dadness and this kind of fun way to describe story time.
Yeah.
But before we log off, as you know, when this comes out, when this episode comes out is the day before my dad's birthday. So I did just want to say, Dad, I was not going to leave you hanging your birthday weekend without an episode. So I told Alex that we had to do this. And happy birthday. I love you. Thank you for being a good dad and a loyal listener, which is really the most important thing you've ever done for me. Just say. So
Thanks, everybody.
bye.
Thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Any resources that we mentioned during the show will be in the show notes. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to talk with us, the best place is in the comments on YouTube. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Working on the Dad Pod, and on Twitter at Working on Dad Pod. Following and subscribing is always appreciated. Please rate and review us. That helps get the show to new people. And if you know a dad who would enjoy our show, sharing it with them is a huge help to them and us. Have a great week.